Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at my G1 Punch-Counterpunch figure, and I'm also going to be showing you an alternate transformation for the figure in robot mode that you might not have seen before. Be sure to stick around and subscribe to my channel for more. Hey folks, Em here from Transformers and Video Games, and welcome back to the channel. As I mentioned earlier, today we're going to be taking a look at everyone's favorite double spy. This is, of course, G1 Punch-Counterpunch. This figure came out in 1987, and what makes it so unique and interesting is the fact that it includes two distinct robot modes. One of them's an Autobot, and one of them's a Decepticon. So you can only imagine the additional play value that a figure like this would have brought to a kid back in the 80s. If you're not familiar with this figure, you're going to want to stick around and watch this review. I was lucky enough to pick up this particular specimen from TFCon Toronto a couple of years ago. For anybody who's never been, I do have a couple of dealer room walkthrough videos on my channel that you're more than welcome to check out. Now, along the top portion of the box here, you can see the simplified transformation sequence that came in all the original boxes back in the day. Down below here, you can see that I've got the Canadian edition. That's why it's got the English name and the French-Canadian name underneath. And my favorite part here is the artwork on the front. Now, I gotta say that I am also quite impressed with the Amazon exclusive Power of the Primes version of Punch-Counterpunch. That artwork is pretty amazing in its own right as well. On the bottom, they list the contents of the box, and on the right side, you can see that this particular figure was worth 2 robot points back in the day. These robot points could be redeemed for mail-away Transformers figures, which I might show you in another video. On the back of the box, you can see more of that amazing G1 style artwork. In the upper right corner, it says, "It is a world transformed, where things are not what they seem. It is a world of the Transformers, a world of heroic Autobots and evil Decepticons." Now, I've always really liked these action sequences on the back of the box. I think the artwork is absolutely amazing. You can see here Fortress Maximus in the background. Now, it's a little bit more difficult to see, but down below, he's actually fighting Scorponok. And if you look carefully, you can see a number of our favorite headmasters participating in the battle. On the left side here at the bottom of the box, they have the character's bio. It says, "Function, double agent. Motto, in my business, there are no friends, only suspects. Punch, the Autobot, transforms into Counterpunch, the Decepticon, to infiltrate enemy installations. Cool-headed, a robot of few words reveals little of his true self to either side. Maximum car mode speed, 260 kilometers per hour. Uses his twin mortar launcher in Autobot mode and photon cannon in Decepticon mode." Here's a quick look at the figure outside of his box, and at a glance it actually looks like the figure is still sealed in its bubble. But if you look closely, you can see that the original owner actually cut around the edge of the bubble of the toy and both weapons so that they could be played with and then later returned to the box for storage and for display. Now, I've got to say that this is probably my favorite way of displaying an original Transformer. If I could go back in time and open up my original Sunstreaker from when I was a kid, I definitely would have opened it up this way. One cool thing that used to be included with G1 Transformers that unfortunately isn't done anymore is the fact that they used to include these little catalogs with your purchase of each figure. Not only could you open these up and take a look at all the cool new figures that were coming out, but they also included checklists so that you could track your own collection, or more importantly, you could give the checklist to your parents so that when your Christmas or birthday rolled around, they would make sure to buy you a figure that you didn't already own. Now we'll take a quick look at the instruction booklet that was included, and I must admit that I'm pretty underwhelmed by the artwork that they've used here. They should have just used the artwork from the front of the box. On the flip side, you can see what the set includes. It comes with the Punch-Counterpunch car, the photon cannon, the twin mortar launcher, a sticker label sheet, and of course the tech specs decoder. For anybody that's not familiar with an original tech specs decoder, it's essentially just a thin, translucent piece of red plastic that you would place over the tech specs on the back of the box to reveal his various strengths and weaknesses, which I'll show you momentarily. Alright, so here we are looking at the back of the box again. You can see the scrambled tech specs. We're just going to slide the decoder over top so that they can be read, and I'm going to run through these quickly right now. We've got strength is a 6, intelligence is a 9, speed is a 4, endurance 6, rank 7, courage 9, courage is 10, firepower is a 6, and skill is a 9. I think you'll agree that overall the stats for this particular character aren't bad. I think what surprised me the most is the low ranking that he got for speed. He got a 4 out of 10, and I think given the fact that his alt mode is a sports car, I mean, albeit not a high-end sports car or a particularly exotic one, but certainly a cool-looking sports car, I just would have thought that given that fact, he would have had a higher rank in that respect. Other than that, though, I think things are pretty good. Now that we've got the figure outside of its packaging completely, we can take a closer look at the alt mode. Starting with the back left side of the vehicle, you can see a gas cap and a rear window that have been molded in place, along with some panel line detailing along the side of the car. On the front, we've got headlights, and you can see smaller lights molded into the bumper below that. The right side of the vehicle is obviously going to be identical to the left, with the exception of it not including the gas cap detail. And I should mention that the windshield, the driver's side window, and the passenger side window are all painted with a really nice silver paint, which I do think really adds to the overall look of the car. Next, we'll take a look at the underside of the vehicle. On the left, you can see a couple of sticker details, which are pretty cool. And then there's, of course, the rub sign, which we'll take a closer look at in robot mode. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but the specific make of car here is a Pontiac Fiero. These were very cool-looking cars back in the 80s. They just weren't the most reliable. It's funny, but I remember they used to sell body mold kits so you could make your Fiero look like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, which I found kind of pointless since the Fiero was nowhere near as fast as either of those cars. You can see that the wheels roll just fine here. Just unfortunately in 1987, Hasbro was no longer using rubber tires on their Transformers toys, so they were molded entirely in plastic. As much as I like Punch-Counterpunch, when you compare it with G1 Sideswipe here on the right, you can see that by the time 1987 rolled around, the Autobot cars had taken a real step backwards when it comes to realism. In fact, in my opinion, Punch-Counterpunch looks like it was designed for a younger age bracket compared to Sideswipe, which is entirely not the case at all. Alright, now we're going to move along to transformation, and as I'm sure you've guessed, it's not very complicated. Start off by pulling the rear end of the vehicle all the way back. Now you see these two rectangular shaped slots down below. You're going to push the upper portion of the thighs into the slots. Now you'll notice there's a track here on the inside of what's going to become the lower legs. You're going to want to slide the knee section along till it gets to the other end, then flip it around. Next, you're going to want to separate the lower portion of the legs just like this, moving along to the upper portion of the robot. Grab the shoulder section and swing the arms around a full 180 degrees. Flip it around to the back. Pull down the windshield. Flip around the head. Then push the windshield back in place. Next, we're going to get the arms into position. Now, if you look closely in the light, you can see a little tab here on the shoulder. Just push that in, which allows you to lift and straighten the arm. Now, rotate the fist into position, and then just do exactly the same thing on the other side here. That one's a little bit more stiff. Move that up, and again, swing the fist around into position. And that's all there is to it. I think it's a fairly simple yet satisfying transformation. Now we'll take a quick look at articulation, and when I say a quick look, this is of course a G1 Transformer, so there's not much articulation to speak of. Starting here with the arms, there is up and down rotation at the elbow, and then due to transformation, the fist will rotate left and right a little bit, and then at the shoulder, we've got a full 360-degree rotation. Punch has a heat-activated rub sign in the center of his chest, which I'll just warm up with my thumb here to reveal a very cool Autobot faction symbol. Next, we'll grab his Autobot weapon, which of course is the twin mortar launcher. I'm just going to stick it in his right hand here. And I think that looks really good. It matches his chest and his shoulders nicely. I think it's a really good design for a weapon. We'll just do a quick 360-degree look at the robot here. The back is really clean. Some nice shoulder stickers there. Overall, I think they've done a really nice job with this robot mode. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I was going to show you an alternate transformation for Punch's robot mode. Now just so you know, I didn't make this up myself. I was actually on TF Wiki and they showed a picture of it, along with a brief description on how to do the transformation. So they were actually suggesting that this was the intended robot mode, and that what we saw on the official instruction booklet for the figure and on the pictures on the box were incorrect. So I'm going to show it to you and you can let me know what you think in the comments. First thing we do is push the lower legs together, then rotate them 90 degrees at the knees, sliding them all the way along that track that I showed you in the beginning of the video until they click into place. Separate the legs, and then the last step would be to flip the feet around from the bottom so that they're now facing the front. And that's all there is to it. So we've got him here now in his alternate robot mode, and I'll just show you a couple of different angles here. I don't think he looks too bad. It's kind of nice that he has feet in the front, but there's no doubt he does have a shorter, stockier appearance now. Just for a little bit of fun, I thought I'd pull out another Punch-Counterpunch figure that I have kicking around. I thought I'd put him in his standard Punch robot mode configuration, and that we could compare them side by side here on this turntable. Other than the obvious height difference, one thing that I'll point out is the fact that the heel spurs using the TF Wiki transformation obviously stick out really far compared to the cleaner look of the standard transformation. But I will say that those larger heel spurs do provide a lot of stability for the figure. I mean, once you lock it into place by separating the legs again, that's not going anywhere. A couple of other nice things about the TF Wiki configuration is, number one, the fact that he actually has feet, and number two, the fact that it actually completely fills in the front portion of his legs. You'll notice there by way of comparison that on the right, the standard configuration robot is completely hollow from the knees down, which is a bit of a shame. I personally think that having another option for a robot mode is pretty cool, but I'm more interested in hearing what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments section and let me know if this is something that you'll ever do with your figure. Alright, now we'll take the figure from his Punch robot mode into his Counterpunch Decepticon mode. To do this, rotate the fists outward and collapse the arms back into the space underneath. Turn the figure around and pull the windshield down enough so that you have enough clearance to rotate this panel around to reveal the rub sign. Next thing, you're going to want to rotate the arms at the shoulders again. Do this on both sides. Next, maybe halfway down the arm section, you'll notice a tab that you can use to pull out Counterpunch's arms by the elbows here. And then you can just swing around the hand there, again using the elbow joint. Do the same thing on the other side. And here we've got the arms pointing straight out. You can rotate the arms at the shoulders to have them sit a little bit more naturally. And then the last step is to pull the visor back, revealing his face, and pull the feet down. And that's all there is to it. There we have Counterpunch in his Decepticon robot mode. Considering, of course, that this is a G1 Transformer, and given how much simpler toy technology was over 30 years ago, I really think that Hasbro did an admirable job at designing a toy with a completely different looking second robot mode that can be achieved with only a few simple transformation steps. Now we'll just finish things off by giving him his Decepticon weapon. In this case, it's the Photon Cannon. Now you'll notice right away that this is about twice the size of the Autobot weapon, the Twin Mortar Launcher. But of course, as we all know in the world of Transformers weapons and accessories, size doesn't matter. In the center of his upper chest, he does have another heat-activated rub sign, revealing his Decepticon faction symbol here. And for articulation, you've got left and right movement at the elbow, left and right movement at the shoulder, and then you've got, using the other hinge, a full 360-degree rotation at the shoulder. His feet will move up and down. I guess you could technically get 90 degrees of movement there. And that's it for articulation. Now we'll just take a look at the figure from all sides here. You could see that the back, again, is very clean. I personally think that the hollow portion of the back of the legs certainly looks better than having it on the front of the legs. But overall, again, a pretty successful robot mode. Anybody who's been collecting Transformers for a while might remember that the concept of having two unique robot modes is something that we saw again around 20 years later with the release of Sideswipe and Sunstreaker in the Classics or Universe line back in 2008, and most recently again with the Power of the Primes version of Punch-Counterpunch. The beauty of them being able to do that was the fact that they were able to sell us a repaint of exactly the same toy twice, but the robot modes were representing two very different looking characters. To transform it back into car mode, push the feet up, squeeze the lower portion of the legs together and peg it in. Then you can just fold the arms at the elbow and collapse them into the space in behind. Next, pull back the windshield and flip the panel around so that you're hiding the faction symbol. And you can, of course, swing the head around, hiding it again. Rotate the arms around so you can see the hood of the car and just bring it up to the center. Do the same thing on the other side. Now you'll see a peg over here and a hole over here. You're just going to want to bring them together and peg everything into place neatly. Next, you're going to want to do a 90-degree bend at the knees, slide the knees along that track that I showed you earlier, and flip them around. Push the upper thighs all the way back, and then collapse the rear end of the vehicle into the center of the vehicle. And that's it for transformation. Here he is back in vehicle mode. Alright guys, thank you very much for joining me for my review. I think I'm going to leave it at that for today. Now in conclusion, would I recommend picking up a vintage Punch-Counterpunch figure? I'm going to say that if you can find it for the right price, I would absolutely recommend picking it up. My only suggestion would be to pay a little bit more money at the front end and make sure that you're buying the figure complete, because I know particularly on eBay, if you're trying to find the individual accessories or even instruction booklets, they can tend to cost you a lot of money, especially for figures that are a little bit less common like this one here. Anyways, thanks again for watching everybody. Take care.